I want to talk a little bit about the post today on Mythbuster that you are breathing wrong. So here's a quick little 2-minute history of breath in the pelvic floor space. A long time ago, it wasn't a thing. We would only use relaxation breath for those with pelvic floor pain, maybe to calm the nervous system, but just to do relaxation breathing, right? And then other places you would find breath would be probably in the gym with heavy lifting. And lots of times the strategy taught is a Valsalla, or a holding breath, bearing down or pushing against something like a belt, to essentially use the diaphragm as an additional muscle for stability. So we've got these two concepts that had been floating around for a while. And there's other areas in which breath, I think, has existed for a really long time, like yoga breath. We think about breath in Shavasana. Shavasana tends to be a little bit more kind of just very calm, passive, low belly breath. We talk about breath in yoga, inhale on extension, exhale on flexion. Sometimes Pilates, it's a little bit different. And we think about inhaling on the work, exhaling on the relax. So here's the thing. None of those are wrong, okay? So I want to start by saying there's 1,000,001 different kinds of breath cues that are out there. And I think the topic came up because things work until they don't, right? And so in the concept of breathing in postpartum, I think it also depends on what you need. And those of you that have been following me know that I use real-time ultrasound imaging to look at the pelvic floor, look at the deep abdominals, and figure out what breath works for what person. And sometimes we look at breath that people used as kids because we learn those motor patterns early on. So if I'm working on exhalation, for example, or a small breath blowing through pursed lips to get a little bit of automatic abdominal activation or automatic TA activation, and let's say they can't quite figure it out, did you play a wind instrument when you were a kid? Did you play the flute? Did you play the oboe or the clarinet? I can't really do that without something in my mouth because I used to play the clarinet. Those sorts of things. Try and tap into breath strategies that they may have used a long time ago, if just like the concept of breathing is sort of amorphous. Another thing to tap into or to ask is, did you sing as a kid, or do you sing now, or where do you find that breath? And so one is understanding what people's kind of concepts are regarding breath, like how did they use it coming into kind of a treatment scenario. Another is the types of breath that you might have used and not really thought about it, like singing or instruments. And then the third is, what are you actually doing and what do we need? Okay, so I might have somebody that they were yoga trained through and through, and guess what? They can get just as much automatic activation with an inhale as an exhale. Am I going to make them do one or the other? No, whichever one works. And I think that's where the point is, that like we can't really go around telling people they're breathing wrong because there's only one way to breathe. Whoa, that's my alarm to go get my kids. So it's one of those things that we have to think about the context. What did they know coming into this? What did they use before? What strategies got them what they needed? And what are the things that we're missing and we're trying to activate? So part of my job is kind of to be like an investigator and give multiple cues. And that's the beauty of real-time ultrasound, is I can give a cue and look to see, okay, is that the strategy that I'm looking for? So one, I got to know what I want. Two, I've got to come up with a lot of options and we'll figure out the best one. And then here's the other thing too. If the best one really is just very cognitively challenging, meaning like it's the opposite of everything you've ever done, so try what you've done before and let's see if it works. So I guess my point is, with breath, I think the first part was we became aware of it. And I joke that like breath was like the new black or something like that. And then just like any good pendulum, beyond just awareness of breath, now it's like, oh, this is the right one, this is the wrong one, Valsalla is wrong, holding your breath's wrong. No, we've got to figure out what it is that you need. So for those of you that are working with women who maybe breath might be a strategy or something you need to tap into to see if you can help them, ask a few questions first, like, what have you been using? What were you taught? What types of movements do you use? What's the context? Cross-reference that with where they're having problems, because if the breath strategy they're using, maybe it's not what you want to give them, but it's not where they're having problems, don't worry about it. You're going after where they're having trouble. And if the strategy that they're using isn't helping, then maybe just focus on that. But this whole idea that you can't breath hold when you lift, it's based on, quite honestly, a couple of studies that were probably 15 to 20 years old, looking at more kind of ergonomic workplace situations with nurses lifting things. That's what the studies come from. It doesn't come from postpartum athletes or, women who do heavy deadlifts or anything like that. So we need to be aware that if you're starting to tell people that, maybe the research isn't what you thought it is, read beyond the abstract. But yes, guess what? If you're going to do a 1 rep max, really heavy something, you're going to need to throw the kitchen sink at it. Can you do it efficiently and do it without symptoms? Yes, but sometimes that might actually mean using your diaphragm for stability, okay? So this whole idea that there is a right and a wrong breath across the board, no, we got to kick that can to the curb. There is a breath that works for that situation and that person at that time, and that's what we're looking to find. So check out the post today. Let me know what you think about it. Were you ever told that your breath was wrong? Did you tell anybody that their breath was wrong? And if so, kind of how did that all play out? So hit me up in the DMs. Let me know a little bit about what your experience has been, not only receiving that feedback, but giving that feedback, and what your thoughts are when you're being challenged that, like, hey, maybe it's not black and white. Maybe it's just a lot of shades of gray. So let me know.